So we begin our journey through the majestic Quran with the Surah Al Fatiha, which literally means the opening. And this particular surah comprises of 7 verses, and this is why it has been described in the Quran as the oft repeated seven. And in a particular hadith that is found in Bukhari, the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessings be upon him and all preceding prophets, has said that Al Fatiha is Al Al Quran, which is the mother of the books, and then he said it is the oft repeated seven, and he has also said that it is the Quran al Azim, which is the great Quran. So in other words, he called Surah Fatiha the mother of the book, the which means that it contains the substance, the essence of the Quran is Al Fatiha, and its stature is such that it is called the great Quran. Every single salah of the 5 mechanical prayers that Muslims are prescribed to do daily must contain Surah Fatiha in every cycle, and the salah is not valid if Surah Fatiha is not contained in it. Also, further on this idea of it containing 7 verses, this is an interesting number we see in the Islamic tradition. We know of the 7 heavens, the highest being Jannat al-Firdaus. We also know of the hadith which speaks about 7 people being shaded on Yawm al-Qiyamah. The surah begins with the basmala, and this is one of the 7 verses of Surah Fatiha, whereas with all the other surahs, the Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim is said before the surah except for Surah Tawbah, but that does not constitute a verse of that particular surah. So the Quran begins with Bismillah ar-Rahman, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the entirely merciful, the especially merciful. This means that God's mercy encompasses all of creation in this particular realm, whether they believe or they don't believe, which is why he's the entirely merciful. The especially merciful is mercy that is restricted to the believers in the hereafter. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, all praise and thanks be to Almighty Allah. Ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, the merciful, the compassionate, Maliki Yawmiddin, the owner of the day of judgment. So if we can look at the beginning verses of Surah Fatiha, it's about glorifying God, it's about acknowledging Him as the all-merciful, the all-compassionate, that all praise is due to Him. Then we move on to the fact that He is the owner of the day of judgment. And as we've said, all of the themes in Surah Fatiha, the Quran expands about, and reminding us of the Akhirah, Yawm al-Hisab, the day of accountability, when we are going to be standing before Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is one of the most important themes of the Quran. The Quran encourages us at so many places and reminds us, remember when you are going to be returned to Allah and when you're going to be answered for your deeds. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. You alone do we worship. Again, Tawheed being one of the central themes of the Quran, which is the worship of one God and the oneness of God, that there is no two-ness, there's no two gods, there's no God and something else. God was always in existence, He always will be in existence. He doesn't have a father, a son, family. So you alone we worship and you alone we ask for help. And again, this theme of calling unto God is one of the central themes of the Quran, which we will see. Allah encourages us so many times about calling unto Him and gives us examples of people who call unto Him. Ihdina sirat al-mustaqim. So we again supplicate to show us the straight path. Sirat al-ladhina an'amta alayhim ghayri al-maghdubi alayhim wal-dhalin. I mean, the path that you have favored, not the path of those who have earned your anger, nor of those who go astray. So again, we're ending Surah Al-Fatiha, asking Allah for guidance. And then what does Allah give us? He gives us the Quran. And what is the next chapter after is Surah Al-Baqarah, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Alif Lam Mim, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. That this is the book where there is no doubt a guidance for the people who are conscious of God Messiah, people that have taqwa. So the Quran answers the Fatiha, it expounds on the Fatiha. And when we recite our Fatiha in our prayers going forward, may we really recite it with that particular, or with more meaning, so that it becomes more meaningful. And I just want to mention something interesting about Surah Fatiha is the healing properties. There was a wonderful hadith that I came across, which is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, who said he was with some Sahaba and they came to a particular place, and the chief of that village actually got stung by a scorpion. And so a woman from this particular village came to them and said, look, we need somebody, is there anybody amongst you that can perform ruqya, that is a raqi, because our chief has been stung by a scorpion? And one of the Sahaba said yes, and he went and he performed ruqya over the chief, and the chief healed. And so Abu Sa'id al-Khudri said, we asked him, we didn't know that you were raqi. He said, no, I was able to do this through the barakah of Surah Al Fatiha. And so then the particular chief, he gave the Sahaba some sheep. And so they were hesitant to take it because the fact that he used the Quran to create this healing, he he was hesitant to take payment for it. And so they first went to the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, peace and blessings be upon him, and they said to him, look, this is what had happened, and can we accept this payment? And the Prophet was surprised. He asked him, who told you that Surah Fatiha has healing properties? And he allowed them to accept payment, and he said, I also want a share of it. In other words, a share of it must go to the Baytul Mal. In fact, I had an interesting story as well regarding this. So I teach students, and I had a particular student who had a headache, and it's against the law for me to dispense medication. I mean, a 12-year-old can get abortion in South Africa without a parental consent, but I can't give students Panado. That's a topic for another time. And so I said to look, I mean, I can't give you Panado, but what I can do is I can recite over you, and inshallah, your headache will go. And so I recited Surah Al Fatiha and a few other surahs thereafter, and by Allah's will, the headache subsided. So Surah Fatiha has got medicinal properties. If we ever have ill, particularly in this particular time we're facing, where we have the so-called pandemic that's affecting us, recite Surah Al Fatiha with the intention of shifa'a, and it is a healing. In fact, the entire Quran is a healing and a shifa'a for the believers, but Surah Fatiha specifically has got immense healing properties. I trust you found this meaningful, and I'll see you soon.